Today's lesson is on graphing parallel lines. So we take a look at the lines, the blue and the red line that are on our notes today, and look at, are those parallel? And you know from previous experience that yes, that they are. So what we notice about the slopes of these lines, take a look at the slope of each of them, and what do you notice? We notice that the slope is the same, that if two lines are parallel, it means the slope is the same. So when we're talking about writing equations, which is what we're doing right now, we know that the slope is going to have to be the same, whether that's in point slope form or slope intercept form, whichever form it is, the slope is going to need to be the same in order for those lines to be parallel. So parallel lines are lines in the same plane that, right here, do not intersect. They do not cross. They do not touch each other. They stay equidistant from each other, so they're parallel. So parallel lines have the same slope. Well, that's going to help us with writing equations. Let's take a look at what some of these questions look like. But there's two different types of questions. The first one is going to simply ask you, are these lines parallel? So, and you could be handed standard form, point slope form, or slope intercept form. You could be handed any one of the three forms, and you need to figure out, is the slope the same? If the slope is the same, the lines are parallel. If the slope is not the same, they're not parallel. It's that easy. So just, again, nothing new. Same thing that we've been doing last week and the week before and this week. It's the same skills over again, just looking at them with different lenses. So in this case, are these lines parallel? Well, we see that the first one is in slope intercept form and the slope is negative 1/3. Well, that was really easy. But what's the slope of the next one? It's in standard form. Standard form doesn't just easily hand us a slope. We have to work for it a little bit. We have to solve for y. So if I'm going to solve for y, I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. I'll get 6y equals negative 2x plus 12. Solving for y should be so easy. At this point in time, we've done it so many different times. Now we have y equals, rewrite as the two fractions. So we're going to have negative 1/3 x plus 2. So we take a look at, here's the slope. Now we changed it from standard form to slope intercept form. And if it's in slope intercept form, we can see the slope. So we have negative 1/3 for the first one and negative 1/3 for the second. So the answer is yes. These lines are parallel because they have the same slope. Next one, we have 1/4 is the slope of the one equation. Again, it's in slope intercept form. It's really easy to find out. The other one is in standard form, so a little bit harder for us to be able to tell. So go ahead and solve that for y and see, is the slope the same? Take a minute to do that on your own now, and then check it in a second. All right, now you should check it. We're solving for y. We're going to add 6x to both sides, which is going to give us 8y equals 6x minus 24. Divide both sides by 8, and we get y equals, rewrite as the two fractions, 6x over 8 becomes 3/4 x when we simplify, and negative 24 over 8 becomes negative 3. So our slope is 3/4. Here it's 1/4, here it's 3/4. Those slopes are not the same, therefore these lines are not parallel to each other. So that's the first skill today, is just simply be identified by looking at the equations if lines are parallel or not. The second equation skill that we're going to do, here are the notes on it. We'll come back to that in just a second. Let me talk you through it first. So if this is what I'm dealing with right here, I have a point and I have slope intercept form. And what I need to do is write a line that is parallel to the one that's given. So I know the slope is 3/5, and I need to come up with another equation. If I were to graph this, right, I would have my y-intercept is it positive or negative 4? Negative 4. It's hard to see. If I point at negative 4 and I go up 3 over 5, up 3 over 5, and I graph a line, and then I have this point of 5,1. So I have a point at 5,1. I have to figure out what is the equation of the line that I would draw that would be parallel to that one. Now I can see, obviously, that that line is supposed to be like this, right? This is the line I'm looking for, but what is the equation for that line? It's what I have to figure out. So here's how you figure it out. I know the slope and I know a point. If I know slope and I know a point, then what am I able to write? Point slope form, right? So I'm going to pull up my point slope form, remembering that it's the same template every single time. And all I have to do is fill in the slope, 3/5, and then take my point put my x first and my y last. I'm sorry, my x last and my y first, other way around. So to flip their spots, the y goes first and the 5 goes last. And I have to change their signs. They were both positive, so they're now both going to be negative. So I write it in point slope form. Because if I know slope and I know point, I can write point slope form. My final answer needs to be in slope intercept form though. So now I have to change it from point slope form to slope intercept form. So I'm going to distribute, keep the y minus 1. I'm going to get 3/5 x. 3/5 times negative 5 is going to be negative 3. Then I'll add 1 to both sides and get 3/5 x minus 2. So now I have an equation in slope-intercept form. It has the same slope of 3/5, so the slope matches. And when I graph that line, it's going to be this line right here that's parallel and goes through that point. Right there, goes through the point of 5, 1. Okay? So when you're handed a point and an equation, and you're asked to write an equation that is parallel to it, you use the same slope because parallel lines have the same slope. It's a really important piece to remember for today. Parallel lines have the same slope. So I take the slope, I take the point, and I write point slope form. Put it in point slope form. From point slope form, change it to slope intercept form, and you're done. And that's it. So if you take a look at the notes above, that we can glue, and I have these in class, we can glue these into your notebooks for you, or you can copy down your notebook, whichever you prefer. But I have this where you can just glue to your notebook if you want. Step 1 is find the slope using the slope of the parallel equation. So make sure that it's in slope intercept form, because it's in slope intercept form, finding the slope is really easy to do. So that's the first thing to do is just find the slope. What slope are you working with? Step 2, use the same slope that you just found and the point that you were given slope and a point, and put that into point slope form. And then change it from point slope form to slope intercept form, just like we were practicing last week and this week. All right, let's take another one. Take a look at the next example. Down here, B. You give B a try on your own, and then check back in here in a minute and see how you did. Try it on your own first. All right. Got your answer? All right. Or did you get stuck? How did you do with that? So we know the slope is 3, and we have a point of 2, -6. So if I know slope and I know point, I can write point slope form. It's that same template every time. The slope is going to be 3, and the point, I'm going to switch spots. The 2 is going to go last, and the 6 is going to go first. The 2 is positive, so I'm going to write negative, and the 6 was negative, I'm going to write positive. Okay, that's point slope form, given that slope and that point. From there, I need to change it to slope intercept form. So I'm going to distribute and get y plus 6 equals 3x minus 6. Then I'll subtract 6 from both sides and get y equals 3x minus 12. And there we have it. Notice that the slope is the same between both of them. And those two lines, when I graph them, are going to be parallel. And this second equation is going to go through that point right there. That point is going to be one of the solutions on that line. All right, one more level of challenge to add to this. We're doing hard stuff now, aren't we? But you got it. You can do it. You totally can do hard things. All right, take a look at these two. So the first one, we need to have a point and a slope. Well, I don't see a slope. Slope's not easy to get. It's in standard form. So standard form doesn't just hand us a slope. We have to change it to slope intercept form to get the slope. So let me solve for y. So I'm going to add 5x to both sides. And I'm going to get 2y equals 5x minus 8. Divide by 2. I get y equals 5 half x minus 4. Now it's slope intercept form. There's my slope right there. 5 halves. That's what I was looking for. So now if I have slope and I have a point, if I have those two things, I can write y. I can write point slope form. Just plug those in. So I put my slope here of 5 halves. I take this point and flip. So the 3 goes first and the 2 goes last. The 3 was positive. It's now negative. The 2 is negative. It's now positive. I can write point slope form. From there, I can distribute. So I'm trying to get y on one side and everything else on the other side. I get 5 half x plus 5. I add 3 to both sides. And my final answer will be y equals 3/2 x plus 8. So now I have one equation in slope-intercept form and a second equation in slope-intercept form. And those both are going to be parallel to each other because they have 5/2. Oh, that's a 5, not a 2. My handwriting. Sorry about that. It is a 5. So they have the same slope. See, it doesn't make sense. Go back and look. It has to have the same slope to be parallel. And this second line right here, the second line is going to go through that point right there because I used that point to write point slope form. So it all ties in together. Again, no new skills at all this week, just using things we learned previously and tying them all together. Right? You give D another try. Remember that first you have to solve for y, making it slope-intercept form. Use that slope and that point to put it into point slope form. Once you're in point slope form, distribute, move the 3, and you'll get it back into slope-intercept form. And what you should see is that that slope and that slope match, that they are the same thing. Give D a try and see how you do. All right, did you try it? Did you get stuck somewhere? Did you get it all the way through? You can do hard things. You can do these. You may have to watch this video a couple of times to kind of just see it and hear it. It's just that repetition over again. The more repetitions you hear it, the easier it's going to be. All right, let's solve for y. So we're going to add 7x to both sides. Gives us negative 3y equals 7x plus 3. Divide both sides by negative 3. We get y equals negative 7/3 minus 3. Oops, forgot my x. I'm going to put my x in there. Negative 7/3 x minus 3. Right, now I have a slope and I have a point. So if I have a slope and a point, I can write point slope form. That same formula every time, putting the slope right here and making that point plus 7 and minus 9. Flip, flip. Flip sides, flip signs. Now we're going to simplify this. Distribute that across. We get y plus 7 equals negative 7/3 x. Grab your calculator. If you can't multiply that negative 7, it'd be negative 7 ABC3 times negative 9. If you do that, you're going to get plus 21. And then we're going to subtract 7 from both sides. We get y equals negative 7/3 x plus 14. There's our second equation. So we have our first equation and our second equation, same slope, and they will be parallel to each other. All right, off you go to do today's homework. You've got this. Let me know what questions you have. Send me messages, hop online with me, join me for Canvas conference, ask to come to my core. You can do this. You just need to see and hear it enough times until it begins to make sense to you. Cheering for you.